You were probably watching this video for a couple of different reasons. One reason, maybe you're one of my regular viewers. Typically on this channel, I go through different side hustles that I make different extra money to go on different trips. Typically I focus on reselling, but I have focused on a couple of different ventures. Second reason why you might be watching this video is because you got the Frontier Go Wild Pass and you haven't taken your first trip yet. You're a little bit nervous and you want to know a little bit more about it. Third reason, maybe you are just skeptical of it and you want to see if it's a total scam. So if any of those reasons reach out to you, go ahead and hit the like button. You are here for the right reason. Of course, go ahead and hit subscribe if you are not yet subscribed. Now that you are fully part of my tribe, let's go over 5 things I learned on my first Frontier Go Wild trip. Now, I did take my first trip last week. I am based in Orlando and I took my trip to Denver. And when I first bought this Go Wild Pass, it was this idea that flights would only be 1 penny. I bought this back in November as a Black Friday kind of deal for $800. I really thought that it was gonna be a penny. Now I knew that there was gonna be stipulations. I knew going in, there was gonna be some kind of thing that would go wrong. I would have to upgrade and do something. I would be on standby. I wasn't expecting to get these unlimited flights for pretty much $800 a year. I really, truly thought that that was too good to be true. However, I really did think they would be a penny. I just thought that they would be impossible to get is kind of what I was thinking with it. But turns out most flights are actually $15. Now, some of the flights are $25. Some of the flights are $30. So let's take this flight from Orlando to Denver, for example. I just picked tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday, June 17th as an example. This is the flight that I took last weekend. I see there's a flight from 11:10 a.m. to 1:17 p.m. Denver. That's $15 on the Go Wild Pass. The next flight is also the $15. The next one, not available. That means probably all the seats are taken up. Next one is $25, but that is a layover as well. The next one is $30. Again, that is a layover. And look at these times, 14 hours and 25 minutes. For these layovers here, that's travel time. So it's not really enough time to really do anything. I don't suggest picking those flights, but you do what you got to do for a $30 flight. I suppose this one was from 11:44 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. Again, you're basically just getting a hotel with another added expense. So I chose the direct flight when I went, and that was just the $15. Well, that was the first thing that I learned is have expectations of how much the flights are actually going to be. The second thing that I learned with using my Frontier Go Wild Pass for the first time is to remain flexible. Frontier did openly say if you have a flexible schedule, this would be for you. I say this because if you are making a trip for a specific reason, such as a wedding, for business, if you're going to family reunion, I don't know. If you have a specific event that you have to go to, I wouldn't recommend using your Frontier Go Wild Pass for that. However, my purposes was just for solo travel. This was my first solo traveling trip, and I absolutely loved it, by the way. The first place that I wanted to go to was Dallas because I've been hearing so many good things about Dallas, and I've never been. So I wanted to take my trip to Dallas. I say remain flexible because when I looked at different trips to Dallas, there weren't any. Or the layovers were like a day and a half, or the layover was like 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. and I didn't want to get a hotel for it to basically sleep and then have to travel the next day, and it would basically be 2 days of travel. So what I did is I looked at all the different options that Frontier had. I noticed that Denver seemed to be a hub for Frontier in some way because there were a lot of different flights. So I chose Denver. One of my main concerns was being able to get a flight there and not being able to get a flight back. I did check to make sure that there was plenty of flights from Denver to Orlando. Even if the flight that I wanted to get on was not available, I knew that I wouldn't be stuck there renting a car, flying somewhere else. I knew that I would be able to get a flight back from Denver to Orlando with no problem. So with that said, if you are flexible in where you're going and what time you're going, Frontier Go Wild Pass might just be for you. If you haven't had it yet, there are still summer passes available. I think they're like $400, but if you're planning on taking advantage of it, I still recommend it. The third thing that I learned on my first Frontier Go Wild trip is there will definitely be delays. Now, I don't think this has anything to do with the Frontier Go Wild Pass in general. I think it just has to do with Frontier and how they run things. There's not that many flights. If things mess up in one flight, it messes up another flight. Now, I had a flight after work on Friday. My flight was taking off at 8 o'clock. I didn't end up taking off until about 10:30. Now, they didn't really say what the delay was about. I just kind of went with the flow. I brought a book. I had my phone. I was editing a video. It really wasn't that big of a deal to me to be sitting at the airport because I probably would have been on my phone at home anyways, so I wasn't that stressed about it, but I know that if I was going to a specific place on a specific timetable, it would kind of ruin it for me. But I specifically went into the mindset of, this is my solo traveling journey. It's my first one. I'm just going to take things as they come. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but there were definitely people that were stressing out in the moment. Now, I ended up getting to my hotel at about 12:30. By the time I truly winded down and went to sleep, it was like 1:30, pushing at 2 o'clock, whereas I would hope to be asleep by 12. Again, I just went with the flow with it. I was a little bit tired the day after, but I wanted to seize the day, enjoy my solo traveling adventure. So I did end up going to Red Rock super tired and hike. I knew that there was a possibility of getting sick from the altitude of the mountaintops, but I was willing to chance it. I did end up going on one of the higher trails. I didn't even realize it. I was just adventuring along. I luckily didn't end up getting sick, but it was a very real possibility that I could have gotten sick, and I was all by myself. I made sure that my phone was fully charged, ready to go. I don't recommend going hiking the day after a late flight when you are so exhausted, but I did it and I survived. I have no regrets with that. Going back, my flight was also delayed for 2 hours. Now, my flight was originally scheduled at 11 p.m., which I already knew. Again, be flexible in the time. It was going to be a long day. I checked out of my hotel at 11 a.m. and I just planned to kind of, wander around the city, do some things. The day before is when I did all the hiking. The day I was flying back, it was just a quick weekend trip. So really I was there for 2 days. I decided that's when I was going to go to the breweries, just kind of wander around, see what I got into. I knew that could last, basically all day. So I did that. My flight, before I even got to the airport, I learned that my flight was going to be delayed. So I wasn't really rushed to get to the airport. However, I learned that Denver closes down basically at like 6 o'clock on a Sunday. So there really wasn't anything to do besides literally walk around. I did end up going to Union Station a little bit early to explore that. I did save Union Station until I was actually going back. I heard that it was like this really cool place to explore, all kinds of different things going on. But by the time I got there at 9 o'clock, it was pretty much done and people were basically just catching the train. So I just caught the train. I went to the airport a little bit early and explored the airport. Again, went with the flow. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I was just kind of leaning into the solo traveling. I wasn't trying to make it this glamorous trip. I was just trying out, enjoying the time with myself. But again, if you are on a specific timetable, might not have been for you because there were definitely delays. My flight ended up taking off at about 1:30 in the morning. I was planning to take a nap when I got home and then go straight into work, but by the time I got home, work had already started and I wasn't able to sleep on the plane as I originally planned because it was so incredibly cold and I was literally shivering the entire 3-hour flight. So I took the day off of work, which I guess is not that big of a deal. I'm in education and it's the summer. Summers are a little bit more flexible than they are during the school day. So I just chalked it up to a work from home day. I did log in and get some work done, but let's be real, I wasn't as productive as I would have been if I wasn't completely exhausted. The next thing we got to talk about is the bag situation. I know it's like top of mind for everyone. Frontier charging $100 for personal items. The bag situation was not as serious as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be this huge thing, cause delays on its own. I thought people were going to be going crazy and I had all this I was ready to record and be ready to go and show you it, but there was literally nothing to record. People just got on the plane. It was not that big of a deal at all. But let me show you the bag that I actually took with me. So literally it is just this small hiking bag. I did wear a sweatshirt, leggings, and my hiking shoes on the plane. So that was the bulk of the stuff that I had with me. I had 2 outfits along with my brush, a book, and some light makeup with me as well. I just used the hotel's toiletries, blow dryer, and whatnot. I knew that going in. I know they're not always the best at hotels, but it was a weekend and I was making do with what I had. So this is the only bag that I took with me, which kind of worked out because when I was basically homeless for 10 hours because I checked out of my hotel at 11, my flight wasn't until 11 p.m. I really just walked around town with this. I did leave this at the hotel for a couple of hours and I probably could have left it there a little bit longer, but it did begin to rain and I changed, and because I had already changed, grabbed my bag as it was, I just went ahead and grabbed the whole thing and I just kind of walked around town with this, which really wasn't a big deal because it's Denver and people go there to kind of walk around and hike anyway. So I really just blended in with that. Other people that had other bags, it really wasn't that big of a deal. Most people had just backpacks. The only bags that Frontier had people check were bags that were obviously too big. Like, people were really trying to travel with like suitcases. You really are trying to travel with a huge suitcase or like one of those big like backpacking Europe book bags, that's probably not going to pass. But if you have just a normal book bag, I didn't really see them stopping anybody for that. So if you're worried about the whole bag situation, if you have a normal size backpack or literally like a work tote bag or something like that, it's not as big of a deal as everybody is making it out to be. Or at least that wasn't my experience on either of the flights that I took. The final thing that I learned on my first Frontier Go Wild trip is I actually have to use it. Now, I've had this option available to me since I think it started May 5th, and I waited an entire month to use it just because I was, I don't know, putting things off, and I probably could have taken like 2 or 3 trips by now, and I'm so happy I finally did. I'm actually going on another trip tomorrow. I'm going to say where I'm going just for, personal confidentiality reasons, but as I get back from that trip, of course, I will share anything else that I learn with you because I really, truly on this trip have fallen in love with solo travel. If you have never traveled solo before, I highly recommend it. I have heard people talk about it so much, and I never actually did it myself. If I had like one thing that I can change in life is that I would have traveled solo long before because it really is just amazing. If you have any recommendations of where I should go in terms of solo travel, I would absolutely love to hear it. I do plan on using this Frontier Go Wild Pass for solo travel pretty much the rest of the year, taking these quick weekend trips. Again, in the summer in education, things are a little bit slower, so I might be able to do more of an extended weekend trip or maybe take one of the breaks and take like a week-long trip or something like that. I'm an open book. I would love to be able to continue to share this with you. Again, if you're not yet subscribed, now's the time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're here just for the Go Wild content, welcome. I'm happy to hear you. If you are here for Go Wild, reselling, money-making opportunities, absolutely you are here in the right place because I plan to continue to share all of that with you because I would not be able to afford this Frontier Go Wild Pass or the hotels or any of the eating and drinking there if it wasn't for reselling because in education, well, we don't really make all that much money, so you gotta do what you gotta do to be able to enjoy things like this. That's all for now. I thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in this next video.